Hey Hydrohaven family, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to dive into something super practical, especially for those of you with limited space, growing vegetables in small pots. Whether you have a small balcony, a patio, or even just a windowsill, you can still enjoy fresh, homegrown veggies without needing a massive garden. I've had my fair share of growing veggies in small spaces, and I've learned a lot along the way. So let's get right into it. 10 vegetables you can grow in small pots and how to do it successfully. Lettuce is one of the easiest vegetables to grow in small pots, and it's perfect for beginners. It doesn't need a lot of space, and it grows quickly. I've grown lettuce in containers on my balcony, and it thrives there. How to grow. Choose a shallow pot, about 6 to 8 inches deep. Use a well-draining potting mix and sow lettuce seeds about a 1/4 inch deep. I like to plant in clusters since the leaves grow quickly, and you can harvest them as cut-and-come-again leaves. Keep the soil consistently moist and place the pot in a spot with partial to full sun. Tip lettuce is sensitive to heat, so try to grow it in cooler seasons or provide some shade in the summer. Spinach is another leafy green that does well in containers. I've had success growing spinach in medium-sized pots, usually about 10 to 12 inches deep. It's a great way to add healthy greens to your meals without needing a garden. How to grow. Plant spinach seeds 1/2 inch deep in a pot with good drainage. I recommend using a rich organic potting mix. Spinach grows best in cooler weather, so try planting in early spring or fall. Place your pots in an area where they get 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. Water regularly, but avoid overwatering. Tip like lettuce, spinach grows best in cool temperatures. If it gets too hot, it may bolt, so keep an eye on the weather. Radishes are one of my favorite vegetables to grow in pots because they grow so quickly. You can literally harvest them within a month of planting. They're great for small spaces since they don't need much room to grow. How to grow. Choose a pot that's about 6 to 8 inches deep. I plant radish seeds about 1/2 inch deep and space them a few inches apart. Radishes love sunlight, so make sure your pot is in a sunny spot. Water the soil evenly to keep it moist, but don't let it get soggy. Tip: if you want a quicker harvest, pick radishes that are small varieties like the cherry bell. They're fast-growing and perfect for containers. Tomatoes are super popular, and while they do require a bit more space, you can still grow them successfully in a small pot if you choose the right variety. I've grown small varieties like cherry or compact determinate tomatoes in containers on my balcony with great success. How to grow. Use a large pot, at least 12 to 14 inches deep, for each plant. Start with seedlings or young plants rather than seeds to speed up the process. I use a good quality potting mix and make sure the pot has good drainage. Tomatoes need a lot of sunlight, so aim for 6 to 8 hours of direct sun per day. Water regularly, but let the top inch of soil dry out between waterings. Tip: to prevent your tomatoes from toppling over, stake them or use a tomato cage for support. Herbs are a fantastic choice for small pots because they grow really well in containers and don't require much space. I keep a few herb pots on my windowsill or balcony all year round for fresh herbs in my cooking. How to grow. Use smaller pots around 6 inches for each herb. For basil, I start from seeds, but for mint and parsley, I usually buy starter plants. Herbs love sunlight, so place them in a sunny spot and make sure they get at least 4 to 6 hours of sun. Water them when the soil feels dry, but avoid letting them sit in waterlogged soil. Tip: mint is super invasive, so I always recommend planting it in its own pot to keep it from overtaking other herbs. Carrots can actually grow pretty well in pots, especially if you choose the right variety. I've had great luck with baby carrots or short root varieties that don't require as much depth. How to grow. For carrots, I use a pot that's at least 10 to 12 inches deep. Plant the seeds a 1/4 inch deep and space them about 2 inches apart. Carrots need plenty of sunlight, so I always make sure the pot is in a sunny spot. Water gently to keep the soil moist but not soggy. Tip: to avoid root deformities, use a loose, well-draining potting mix. If the soil is too compact, the carrots may grow misshapen. Peppers are another vegetable that I love growing in containers. They take a bit longer to mature than some other vegetables, but they thrive in pots with enough space. I've grown both bell peppers and chili peppers on my balcony in medium-sized pots. Use pots that are at least 10 to 12 inches deep for each pepper plant. Start with seedlings, as peppers take a while to mature from seed. They need lots of sun, so make sure to place them in a sunny spot that gets at least 6 hours of direct sunlight. Water regularly, but let the soil dry slightly between waterings. Peppers like warmth, so make sure the weather is warm enough to support their growth. Don't let the plant sit in cold drafts. Onions are a great option for small pots, and you can grow them from sets, which are small bulbs, or from seeds. I prefer sets since they're faster and easier to work with in containers. I've had success growing green onions, shallots, and even smaller varieties of regular onions in pots. How to grow. Choose a pot that's at least 8 to 10 inches deep for planting. Onions need sun to grow, so I keep my pots in a sunny spot. Plant the sets about 1 to 2 inches deep and space them around 3 inches apart. Water them regularly, but don't let the soil get too soggy. Tip: keep the soil slightly dry towards the end of the growing season to encourage the onions to mature. While zucchini is usually a sprawling plant, there are compact varieties that do well in small pots. I've grown baby zucchini in containers, and while they do take up a bit of space, they're manageable in large pots. How to grow. I use a 12 to 14 inch deep pot for each plant. Plant seeds directly into the soil or start with seedlings. Zucchini needs full sun and should be watered regularly, especially when the fruit starts developing. To avoid disease, water at the base of the plant rather than overhead. Tip: to maximize space, consider using vertical gardening techniques like a trellis to help support the vines. Beans are surprisingly great for pots, especially the bush varieties. I've grown both green beans and pole beans in large pots. If you have a small space, bush beans are the way to go since they're compact and easy to manage. How to grow. Use a pot that's at least 12 inches deep. Plant beans about 1 inch deep, and if you're growing pole beans, provide a trellis or support structure. Beans love the sun, so make sure the pot gets 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. Water them regularly, but make sure the soil has good drainage. Tip: beans actually fix nitrogen in the soil, so they can help improve the health of the soil around them. Growing vegetables in small pots is totally doable, and with the right care, you can have a thriving container garden that provides you with fresh produce all year long. I found that small pots are perfect for gardening in limited spaces, and it's incredibly rewarding to enjoy food that I've grown myself. If you've got the right pots, soil, and a little know-how, you can make it happen. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Hydro Haven for more gardening tips and ideas. I can't wait to see how your small space garden grows. Happy planting!